All right, it's time once again for the Matinee show. This is Matinee, episode 74. We actually saw 3 movies in the theater this week. We haven't done that for a really long time.
Yeah, and they were all good. They were all pretty good.
They were actually all fairly decent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This probably won't happen again for a while because I don't think, like, this upcoming week, I'm not sure there's a lot of shit coming out in the theater, a lot of new shit. And plus, I think on the next show I want to review Color Out of Space because we pre-ordered the Blu-ray and it should be arriving early next week. Yeah. So that'll probably be at least one of the ones that we do.
And I don't give a shit about pandemics though, man. I'm going to see James Bond in the theater.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? If I have to wear a goddamn mask, I'm going to see James Bond in the theater.
That's April. When is that? April?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's April.
I don't know.
That's April. That's coming up. That's a long
I'm in the middle of the fucking Omega Man and I got my mask on and shit. Omega Man world.
Yeah, so we actually did see 3 movies in the theater this week. So we're going to start out with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Now, this is very funny because, I mean, this was like a huge thing because obviously I remember seeing a trailer for this movie like way back last year sometime. And I didn't really think anything about it.
I kind of scoffed at it.
Other than, why are they making a movie out of that? Whatever. But then I found out that everybody had flipped out about how weird the character design looked. Because apparently the movie was supposed to come out last November. But because everybody had such a fucking freak out about how weird the character looked, and it did look pretty
fucking weird.
That actually, like, the fucking production company, Sony or whoever it was, they actually spent an extra $5 million at least to go back and redesign the whole entire character.
And the time that it takes to do it.
Yeah, and so, like, it got pushed back to this former Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it paid dividends, though. They did the right thing.
It did, though. And
they
actually...
listened to the damn fans.
Yeah. I think the problem was they were trying to...
Look too realistic?
Well, they said that the original conception for the concept was the character was they wanted it to look like Ted from that talking teddy bear movie, who was kind of a more realistic looking teddy bear, but was like a CGI character. And people were like, Sonic is a video game character, and why don't you make him look like a video game character in a realistic universe rather than trying to make him look realistic because it just looked really strange and like Uncanny Valley. So props to them for actually going back and fixing some shit, but everybody complained. And it actually turned out, like you said, a lot better for them because this movie seems to be making a lot of money and even critic reviews are, mixed to positive. Most people saying it's a perfectly fine. It's a family movie. It's, it's kind of like a kid movie. Same tone as Detective Pikachu from last year, but I liked this a lot better than Detective Pikachu just because I'm more familiar with Sonic as a character than I am with, I'm not real familiar with like Pokemon, the Pokemon universe. So, I actually played some of the Sonic games back in the 90s, which is funny because I was reading a fucking article about this movie on Wikipedia. What I didn't realize, this movie has been in production or they've been wanting to make it since 1994.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They had like this all, because that's kind of when Sonic's heyday was,
Yeah, I was watching it, and I was thinking, I was like, I remember this character, and I used to play all these video games. I had a Sega.
Yeah, I did too.
And Sonic was kind of like, the way he was drawn, he was an updated Japanese version of Mickey Mouse. That's basically what you have. You have Mickey Mouse. But you don't really know what his personality's like. He doesn't talk in the video games. He's just fighting this Mr. Robotnik guy. And when you see the movie, it starts to kind of make sense. At first, I kind of thought the character was a little too annoying. He was a little bit more like a teenage boy, too much, I thought. But then as it went on, it started to make more sense of why he was like that. I kind of expected him to be kind of like a character with a few words, because I wasn't used to seeing him talk.
Yeah.
But pretty quick, I'm like, okay, I see where they're going with this. It's an updated, cooler version of Mickey Mouse. Cause you gotta face it, man. Mickey Mouse is not really that cool. Hey, how you doing? It's all...
Although Sonic doesn't talk like that.
No, but Mickey Mouse isn't very cool.
That's true.
Sonic was cool, I thought he was kind of a cooler version of that. And as I'm watching it, I was like, why didn't they come out with this movie a long time ago, back in the 90s when Sega was still out there?
Well, they wanted to.
Because the merchandising potential is huge.
Yeah.
Because the drawing of it looks pretty cool. I think the drawing of Sonic's head, coming out of a logo, I think it looks better than Mickey Mouse, actually.
Yeah.
You know, just my opinion. I think Mickey Mouse is kind of soft looking, you know, kind of soy. But Sonic was kind of neat. He's got the little looking jagged hair and tennis shoes, big old tennis shoes. And, you know, I liked the movie. I thought the movie was satisfying. It was a satisfying family film. There's a little bit of everything in it.
It definitely...
Jim Carrey fucking knocks it out of the park.
He kind of stole the movie, I want to say. Well, the thing about it, like I said, you know, since they had been considering making this movie since the 90s, and it just never happened because, you know, the video game adaptation movies that were coming out in the 90s, like fucking Super Mario Brothers and like Street Fighter and stuff like that, didn't do very well. So I guess the plans were scrapped until like 2013, and then they started like talking about doing it again. So in a lot of ways, this seems like a 90s throwback. And like you said, the thing about Sonic's character, now I think I only played like the first Sonic the Hedgehog like Sega game, whenever the fuck that came out. Now apparently there were a lot of other ones, and they might still be making them. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, they were giving shout outs to all of them, just the camera angles and certain things that happened. But yeah.
So what I was going to say was that I think in some of the later iterations, he might have talked, or he might have had more of a personality.
Yeah, maybe I didn't know.
Because it does seem like, and I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that there was an animated show of Sonic the Hedgehog for a little while, maybe back in the mid to late 90s, unless I'm like having a fever dream. Yeah. But I seem to remember that. So I do feel like the Sonic character, because in the 90s, like all the characters were like smart ass teenagers.
Yeah.
So in that sense, the way that they did Sonic,
it made more sense.
It does actually make more sense. He's not like a real annoying, like...
No, he's like a coked out little teenage boy, and you know.
Yeah, he's actually kind of he's kind of charming. It took me a while like to get into his character because, like you said, I wasn't really expecting it. But you know, he's not like an asshole like Bart Simpson is. He's more like you said, he's real coked up, which makes sense because you know he runs really fast, and you would think so. He does everything quickly, and shit like that. So basically, what they did was they made this essentially. It's a superhero movie, but it's also kind of like a buddy road trip type of movie.
And it's also an alien movie. He's an alien from another dimension, basically.
Yeah, which I think was a good way of doing it.
That's how you explain him.
And I think it's cool, too, that they made it where... Because I think when I first saw... And I saw a couple other reviews of this, too, where I think people were... From the trailers were maybe expecting it to be like, oh, he's an alien and it's like a fish out of water type story. But it's not really like that because he's been on Earth for a long time.
Yeah.
But just nobody really knows about him.
Yeah, he grew up here.
Yeah, he got sent here because, you know, someone was like trying to get his powers. And so he got sent to Earth, you know, to this kind of small town. Yeah. So there's kind of like this charming thing where it's not so much... You know, he knows about Earth. It's just that he can't show himself to anybody because he's always like in danger of somebody taking his power. So he feels very isolated because all he can do is he lives in this small town and he loves it and he loves all the people in it, but nobody knows that he exists. Like he's just kind of like watching them from afar and wishing that he could be part of it. So I feel like the whole theme of this is him trying to find like a connection or him trying to find friendship is kind of like the main point of the movie. The movie
also explains Sonic rings and why Sonic needs rings.
Yeah, what they're for,
They also gave a lot more of a character to Mr. Robotnik.
Dr. Robotnik.
Or Dr. Robotnik. And, you know, he's kind of like the villain in the games. In the games, he's always coming up with these damn robots and machines. And he's a government contractor, you know, and he's hired to figure out, you know, this alien electromagnetic pulse that had happened. But Jim Carrey knocks it out of the park. I mean, he channels that character from the Frighteners.
Jeffrey Combs' character. Yeah. He reminded me very much of that.
I forgot that I was watching Jim Carrey. I thought I was watching Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
There was a couple times where he got all Jim Carrey-y.
Yeah.
You know, he could dance and shit. The Robotnik outfit was fucking. His outfit was awesome. Of the clothes that he had on.
Yeah.
And it covered all the bases, the different mustaches that you saw Robotnik with, you know, in the video games, and his technology, the drones and the vehicles, and even some of the... Every time he has a confrontation with Sonic, it looks like kind of like a boss fight. It's very reminiscent of a boss fight in an old platformer video game. It's pretty cool. Very good. And there's definitely going to be a sequel. It sets it up for a sequel at the end. I'm not gonna spoil anything.
Yeah, don't spoil it, because there's a very there's like a
bunch of
there's a sequence. There was it like after the credits, but then there's more credits, and then there's another very, very short little thing that's kind of like leading up until the next thing. And I was like, oh, look at that.
and you know, if you've ever played the games, it pays homage to the games. I mean, you know exactly what it's like.
I mean, and like I said, it's set in the real world. It's set in a really small town in Montana, even though I think it was filmed in Vancouver. Probably everything is nowadays. But you know, so there's kind of that whole thing where it's like, you know, small town versus thing. You know, it's a kids movie kind of. So I feel like there's some stuff. You know, it's kind of like some plot holy type of stuff. Like he needs the cop to like take him to San Francisco, even though he could get a map, or I don't know, but whatever. It's like it was not really that big a deal. I think his whole thing was he wanted to like
he wanted to hang out.
Yeah, he wanted to hang out with that guy because he like admired him so much, and so I guess he like took that opportunity when kind
of a father figure.
Yeah, and I feel like there was that too. And I want to say too that I was going to say about Jim Carrey, I'm not I like Jim Carrey in his dramatic roles. He was great in like, you know, Eternal Sunshine and you know, Truman Show and stuff like that. Some of his comedic roles are like, especially his old ones, the ones that he's known for, like Ace Ventura and The Mask and stuff like that. It's like that gets old very very for me.
All the cocaine inspired.
Yeah, and it's
comedy.
like, you know what I mean? So that kind of stuff,
it's annoying.
It is very annoying. Yeah. So I can only take that for a few. But this one, I think he struck a perfect balance because he's not like, he's over the top, but it's not like wacky, zany, like, look, I'm talking out of my asshole or anything like that. No. It's like you said, it was very Jeffrey Combs-ish, where he's also kind of creepy and sinister, but over the top at the same time.
Yeah, mean.
And but he's also like kind of funny.
Right. And sometimes he's just insane. He's a madman.
Yeah, and I think
it's just like a good Jeffrey Combs character.
It is. It's very much like that, and it's funny that you said that like after we came out of the movie because I'm like that's exactly who I was thinking of from the Frighteners. That's exactly what I was thinking of, like in some of particularly like the way he interacted with like his henchmen and like his little dance number like on the thing.
I get all the freaky stuff.
Yeah, it's like all that kind of shit. Yeah, so he really does steal the movie, but this was like a surprisingly. You know, considering when I saw the trailer like a long time ago, and I didn't even hardly think that much about it. I was like, well, whatever. That looks like it's going to be dumb or whatever. But it actually turned out, it's kind of like a sweet, entertaining, it's a pretty fun fucking movie. And it's like, you know, you can take the kids to see it. Kids will probably fucking love it. It's just like a really adorable.
Shit, I'm 50 and played those games when I was, you know, in the Army. Everybody played that shit, and we used to fucking play Sonic in the barracks, beat each other's asses behind Sonic. Pow! You know, losing rings and shit like that where we were playing. And
I still like that game. I like that game a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty
cool.
The
original one, yeah.
And, I would have been happy to pay to see this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people that are really into, I was watching Chris Stuckman reviewed it, and he's kind of like a bigger, like I said, I played the first game, but I'm not like a huge fan of like the character or the franchise or anything like that. But he was kind of coming at it from, he had played like all of the games, and he was kind of a fan of the character, and he ended up really liking the movie. Although he made a suggestion that somebody needs to get on board with this. Somebody needs to make a Metroid movie.
Yeah.
While they're doing video game movies, I would watch the shit out of that. Cool. Because that was one of my favorites.
Link would be cool.
Yeah, I feel Zelda. Like, have they tried to make any Zelda movies? I feel like they maybe have.
Probably did.
Probably unsuccessfully.
But this was a good movie. It's a feel good movie. Movie for all family, for the whole family. It's just a fun adventure.
Yeah, just a fun like escapist road trip, buddy.
Pure escapism. If you need to fucking just get away from the real world, you can just watch this.
Yeah, perfectly fun movie. So go check it out. All right. Next movie we checked out in the theater this week was Fantasy Island. Or Blumhouse's Fantasy Island, if you would rather. Now, this one actually came out a week or two ago. We were going to see it last week, and then we just didn't get around to it. In the meantime, like I said, I try not to watch like other people's reviews until after I've seen the movie, but I had been hearing through the grapevine that a lot of people were really shitting on this movie, and I saw that on IMDb or fucking Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, it has like 10%, something like that. So
they're tripping.
Well, we decided we were going to go see Invisible Man anyway, which is the one we're going to review next. So we said, well, you know, might as well, we'll just go see this one before that one. You know, we'll make an evening of it. So we decided to go see it. So I was expecting this to be...
I thought it was going to be a shit show.
An orphanage fire. Yeah. I mean, seriously. I expected this to be like really, really bad. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not a great movie, but...
It's a perfectly enjoyable movie.
I had fun with it. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again or like buy it or anything like that, but...
It's not a movie to be taken seriously.
No, it's not.
It's an entertainment movie. It's basically adventure, horror, comedy.
Well, it kind of tries to be everything.
It tries to be everything.
Here's the thing. Like, I feel like I first started seeing trailers for this like several months ago. Because, man, they put a trailer for this in front of like every single movie that we saw. And I was like, well, the trailer, I was like, well, that looks dumb. But it's like, I'm kind of intrigued by the premise. Because, you know, we grew up in the 70s. Saturday nights... You watched Love Boat and then Fantasy Island and then fucking Saturday Night Live.
Well, there was also
whatever.
$6 Million Man you were watching around the same time. I think that might have been on a different day.
So I feel like Fantasy Island had the potential. I'm like, yeah, they could totally go horror with that because I don't remember like a huge amount of the episodes, but I do remember some of them had a supernatural element. Yeah, because wasn't there one with like a werewolf and wasn't there one with like a ventriloquist dummy and shit like that?
I haven't seen it in a long time, but this is what I can tell you. Based on memory of the original series, mysterious shit would happen. It was never explained.
Yeah.
It was never explained. Was this done by some kind of technological trickery or was it magic? And I remember being led to believe that there was some paranormal shit going on Fantasy Island. And that it was paranormal, but they kind of pretended and they told the guests that it was kind of technological fakery and actors and stuff. But there's too much stuff that had happened over the course of that whole show.
It had to be fucking magic,
it had to be paranormal, basically.
That's what I was... Because the show was on for like fucking 6 or 7 years, I think.
Right. And, you know, they were just trying to tell a bunch of morality tales and make this shit happen. And over time you go, wait a minute, this shit's fucking ridiculous. This has got to be some kind of fantasy land. It's Fantasy Island.
Yeah.
All right. Kind of like in the way... They were making it up as they were going along, but it worked out. Kind of like in England, you had the series The Prisoner.
Yeah.
I think they were making that up as they were going along. It's just a bunch of weird shit. That stuff in that series was ultimately never explained. Fantasy Island was kind of like that. It was a bunch of individual morality tales, 3 or 4 of them going on in each episode, and the shit went on forever, and so much stuff happened on that island it's not possible.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
well, that's why I'm saying when I saw the trailer, I was like, even though the movie itself looked dumb, I was like, I like that concept because I remember Fantasy Island. And I was like, the thing about the original TV show that was kind of genius, other than Ricardo Montalban being in it and he like kicked ass.
That was like man. Dude.
But it's a really good premise because you can essentially go any genre you want to go with it. You can have whatever guest star. You can do whatever you want. So it's essentially like an anthology show.
Right.
With horror elements, sci-fi elements. You can do whatever you want. And it's all like in the context of that. And now that I'm saying that, somebody needs to do like a fucking anthology series of fucking Fantasy Island instead of this movie. Which, like I said, this movie, it's not terrible, but I feel like the concept could have been done a bit better. Now, one thing I will say is that the original TV show, they never explained how Fantasy Island worked. This movie,
it does.
They kind of do, and I wish they hadn't done that.
What they did was, with this, is that this is basically an origin story.
Yeah. It's like a prequel
it's
to
like a prequel
TV show,
to a
sort of.
rebooted
Yeah.
Fantasy Island. Which, you know, who are they going to get to fill Ricardo Montalban's shoes to? The guy that they got, being Rourke.
Michael Pena, yeah.
Yeah, he did a great job. But there was a certain physicality to fucking Ricardo Montalban. You know what I mean? He was kind of like the Mexican Chris Reeves. Or maybe like the Mexican Marlon Brando or something. You know what I mean? He had a character and a physicality to him.
Well, he had some mystery to him as
yeah,
well.
And he was
kind
classy.
of like esoteric.
And almost kind of like a James Bond to him.
Yeah.
And, you know, when he played Khan, a lot of people thought that was somehow prosthetics. No, man, that was all man.
Well, because he showed his chest on some of the fantasy islands, too, I feel like.
He was in good shape. The guy that they got, like I said, it's a prequel.
Yeah.
Maybe he transforms slowly once he becomes the Rourke, the Mr. Rourke that you knew from the series. Because actually, what you saw in the series in this universe hasn't happened yet.
It does seem like it because,
Because it has to do with the characters and the order that they appear.
Yeah.
All right. This is kind of like, in a way, Mr. Rourke's origin story.
Yeah, sort of.
Because I think this is the first batch of guests, or some of the very first batch of guests.
Before they worked all the kinks out.
Kinks out. Kinks happen. A lot of kinks happen.
Death. That's a pretty big kink.
Yeah, that's the difference. In the original, in the TV series, no one ever got hurt.
Well, yeah, it was network TV. I mean, what are you going to do? You couldn't kill people off like that.
In this one, you can get killed on Fantasy Island.
Yeah.
All right, so it's not... And then sometimes the dead come back to life. There's zombie-type things happening.
Yeah.
The island itself there's a paranormal force on the island. And that's all it's kind of explained. Not really explained. It shows it to you, but they don't really say where that comes from.
Yeah, they didn't say where it came from, but they did explain how the island
There's ancient
worked.
temples and ruins
right.
and caves and stuff.
Now, it's like, here's one thing. Like I said, now Michael Pena, I like him as an actor. I don't know... Like you said, I feel like someone else might have made a better Rourke. Like, I was looking at some other reviews, and, like, some people recommended, like, Benedict Cumberbatch or maybe Benicio del Toro. He would have been fucking great. Antonio Banderas, somebody said, a couple people recommended that.
Yeah, Banderas.
Somebody with, like, a bit more gravitas, somebody, like, a bit bigger, like, a big, tall
He had to be real tall, and he kind of, and real suave. Even though this guy, Pena, does a pretty good job, I still think Antonio Banderas is closer.
Well, you need somebody with some menace. I feel like Ricardo Montalban, he came across as charming, but also like he would like whip your ass if you like crossed him.
Yeah, you weren't really sure whether he was a god or a devil or a demon in the series.
Now, they I totally forgot about this, but they rebooted the series in 1998, and Malcolm McDowell played Mr. Rourke.
That'd work.
And and I feel like that worked too, because Malcolm McDowell always comes across slightly like really like sinister, like a crazy person kind of. And that's like a compliment. So I feel like that would have worked. I don't think I saw the reboot, but I totally forgot about it until I was reading about this. But I think the problem with this, it's like if they were going to lean into Fantasy Island as a horror concept, which I'm behind that, and I feel like maybe the whole reason that they wanted to do it was because last year, the year before, when they took the Banana Splits, that TV show, and made that into like a slasher movie, which I haven't seen it, but some people, like a lot of people seem to have hated it, but I'm not going to judge. So I feel like that's probably where they're coming from with this, even though I think Fantasy Island is a better property to do that with because it already had like a little bit of a Twilight Zone-y kind of aspect to it.
Yeah.
I wish they had leaned a little harder into the horror. It seems like this one, one of the stories was pretty much basically a straight up horror story. That was like Lucy Hale's, thing where she wanted to get revenge on her bullies. That was like a torture porn type of thing. But the rest of them, the other ones, there was one that was kind of like action-y. There was one that was kind of like, like a bro frat party thing that kind of goes into like a crime direction. Yeah. The other one was just like a straight up melodrama that ended up later having like a little bit of a thriller aspect or like a horror aspect. So I feel like it would have been cooler if like all of the stories had been horror related.
Yeah, but they all started to intertwine.
They did,
right?
yeah.
Which I liked that. To run into each other, and then there was flips involved. It's a convoluted story.
It is very convoluted.
But I was just watching it and having a good time and not really taking anything seriously. I was just along for the ride. I actually enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I did as well.
There was some things that I would have changed. But you know what? You could build on this movie. You could make a series. You could make a series or a sequel to this with Pena and everything, it would work.
Yeah.
But you could tweak it to make it even better, to even maybe complement the original series a little bit more.
Yeah.
Although I do say that this did kind of capture the tone of your average Fantasy Island episode.
It did kind of. Like, the more I thought about it...
The comedic relief was always one of those.
Yeah, because the TV show...
It was a variety show.
Did. It's like some of them were like funny and campy, and like some of them were kind of creepy and like Twilight Zone-ish.
And that's about what the average episode was like.
Yeah, so the schizo tone of this is not as far off from the original show, I guess, as they could. Now, they probably will. Like they said, like you said, they did set up like a sequel.
You could make
to this, and I'm sure they will probably make one, despite all the shit that this movie is getting. It only cost $7 million to make it, and it's already made $35 million.
So
it's already made like more than 3 times its budget.
I didn't realize it was that cheap.
So, well, it's Blumhouse, and Blumhouse's big thing is they want to make horror movies for as cheaply as possible, because horror movies tend to make a lot. But even though they don't have to make like $400 million, to make twice their money back. You know what I mean? So Blumhouse, I mean, they're kind of hit or miss. I mean, they made some great shit. Obviously, they made Get Out. They made Invisible Man, which is the next one we're going to talk about. But they've also made some kind of crappy, they made like fucking... And the guy that directed this, Jeff Ludlow, I think his name is, he also made Truth or Dare, which kind of sucked, I have to admit. I think Lucy Hale was in that too, the same actress. But... I think because I was expecting this to be terrible, maybe that's how I should go into every movie. Because I actually thought I had
low expectations.
I did too. I just thought it was going to be dumb as shit, and it is dumb as shit. But it's
fun though.
It was an enjoyable.
It is kind of fun, yeah.
Like I said, the third act, I like that it went more horror. I like that Michael Rooker was in it, although he needed more screen time. He wasn't really in it all that much. It was still good to see him, but it was still. It's always who doesn't love Michael Rooker? Yeah. Everybody loves Michael Rooker. But like the
guy who played the fucking Russian terrorist or the Russian gangster.
Oh, that guy was a standout. I liked that guy too.
Yeah, there was good. Here's another thing. There was good acting in it.
Yeah.
Everybody did a good job. Everybody did the role that they were supposed to do. Yeah. The goofy comedic guys and everything. It was funny.
Yeah, they were very Night at the Roxbury. Two.
But that was the tone, and that was the way the television series was, and they did it. You could run it just like this. What I would do for part 2, and seeing has it made that much already, said, they're going to make another one.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, if it did that well, they'll make another. And then you see streaming and Blu-ray haven't come out yet. It'll make a little bit more with that probably. Streaming, it'll probably do real well.
Because I feel like sometimes the worse a movie gets reviewed, like the more people want to see it just because they want to see what a garbage fire it is.
This movie is not bad.
But it's not. This one is not nearly as bad as I was expecting. Like I said, it's not fucking, great. It's just like a dumb horror movie. It's a lot better than Truth or Dare, Jeff Ludlow's other movies. It was a lot better than some of Blumhouse's other movies, like The Gallows and stuff like that, which was pretty terrible. It looked kind of cheap. Other than like the island locations look really nice. I think they shot it in Fiji. And also it's PG-13.
That's perfect.
If they're gonna do, I wish though, like I said, if they do a sequel, I wish they would make it a hard R, like make it more like a slasher movie, because this one it just seemed like.
Do you know why?
This one is like, I wouldn't even call this one a horror movie. Exactly.
It'll do better on streaming,
I know.
through Xbox if it's PG-13. People, I think you'll have more action. Just like I was going to say, Harley Quinn didn't need to be R. That would have been better as a PG-13.
It probably would have done better as a PG-13. Yeah,
and I think they actually have a PG-13 version of it out already, I heard. What
they might be able to do, like, in regards to this one, and maybe like in some other of Blumhouse's like PG-13 horror franchises, is maybe they could do a PG-13 movie like for the theaters, and then have an R version that comes out, or have a Blu-ray with both versions on it. Yeah, is probably. That seems like the best. Yeah, that has like all the gore and shit that they cut out.
Yeah, that'd probably be better. What I would do if in the sequel. I could run that same cast, or pretty much, especially the same Mr. Rourke. I probably would get Pena kind of trimmed down and fucking bulked up a little bit. Put him in a nice tailored white suit, and because he had the mannerisms,
he could
do the mannerisms. He just needed to be, I think, more physically fit looking.
Like more imposing.
More, yeah, exactly.
He seemed a little too friendly,
he's
like
a little
not
too friendly,
quite sinister
and
enough.
part of the friendliness of him is that he's not fat, but he's a little plump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He needs to bring in the waist a little bit, maybe pump up the shoulders and the arms a little bit, put him in a nice tailored suit to kind of get that James Bond profile. You know how Craig looks like in a suit? If he looked like that in a white suit, I'd accept him more as the Rourke that we knew from TV.
Yeah.
But you could say, well, this is his origin story. Because remember,
that's kind of how I took it.
Because he had his own issues too. Rourke was also one of the fucking Fantasy Island's victims. You could put it that way. If they continue with, and like you said, the story is kind of convoluted. Yeah. But if they kind of continue along this way with the rules that they set up, as kind of confused and all over the place as they are, they could kind of tighten that up some, and so I could see there is potential there for people to shapeshift. That's all I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah, and I think we need to see a sleeker Pena.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? The way Rourke was really sleek, and then going with the full blown television version of Mr. Rourke. And I would buy a sequel.
So then the second one should be straight up horror, and then the third one should also be horror, but it should be a Fantasy Island Love Boat crossover.
Kinda, yeah. We could do that too.
With a total horror movie. It should get gorier as they go. I'm on board.
Through this whole review, have not mentioned tattoo. We're gonna leave that alone. That's a spoiler.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a spoiler.
Yeah, so we're not going to get into
it. So, I was watching the whole thing. I was like, what the fuck are they going to do? Where the fuck is Tattoo? It's eventually resolved.
It gets resolved. Like you said, it's kind of like a prequel. So,
it's like a prequel.
You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? This is just, I know the reviews are bad, and I know it's like, but this movie does have a lot of problems.
But it's not a bad movie.
But
we've seen some fucking stinkers, man. I had a good time at this one.
I wasn't bored. It's like the end of it was a little, like I said, was a little bit confusing. I think they needed to like tighten up like the rules of the island.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff at the end,
we're like, wait a minute, what?
They're saying all this, and I'm like, wait, what is going on? What? Oh, we can do this now. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like they need to like sweep mop that up a little bit, just because I was confused about what exactly the island could do.
I just gave up. I'm like,
I'm
like, all right, go ahead.
Then I was just kind of like, all right.
Just watching it and enjoying it.
And the twist at the end, which I'm not going to spoil, but the twist at the end was a little unbelievable, like, and again, kind of convoluted, but that's, it wasn't like a deal breaker. We've certainly seen way worse movies.
Oh, yeah.
And this one was, it was a totally fun, like, afternoon.
Now, would I pay $15 to see this in fucking Dolby Theater? I'm going to have to say no.
Yeah, we didn't pay to see it. No. I mean, we did because we have AMC stubs.
We got ACM stubs A-list. We can see 3 movies a week.
A week, right?
Did I felt like I got ripped off? Like I should have selected another movie? Fuck no. If I had time to burn, I'd spend $6 on this easily. Yeah, you could see it on a Tuesday when it was $5 or whatever. Yeah. But it's like I don't feel like we wasted. Like I'm like, oh god, that's 2 hours I'll never get back. It wasn't like that. It's like I had a totally fine time watching it. Yeah, and this might be a weed movie. If you were smoking and you saw this on weed, it would probably be even better. It's kind of. There was certain elements of like Temple of Doom from frickin' Raiders of the Lost. From Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom. I see what you're saying. I got high at Raiders of the Lost Ark from the theater when I was a kid. And it was over. Like, oh, man, let's see it again. We just sat there and watched that shit again.
I can see how weed would dramatically improve would dramatically improve this movie.
Yeah.
I feel like it would. But yeah, so seriously.
You wouldn't get as hung up in things as much. You just roll with it. You're like, oh.
Well, I try not to do that anyway, because like a lot of times.
The tone of the movie was telling you that it was not to be taken
seriously.
They're
just like, don't worry about it. Yeah. And I wasn't. Like, I usually won't while I'm watching movies, like, unless something's really egregious, like, so egregious that it, like, takes me out of, like, what the fuck happened there? You know what I mean? So, nothing was that bad. Now, when I thought about it later, I was like, well, wait a minute. What about, like, this, that, and the other thing? But while I was watching it, I wasn't really...
It doesn't matter.
I wasn't really concerned about it. I was just, like, watching the
You were not concerned about it watching it on television either.
Right, exactly.
And that's exactly what they did.
That was your Saturday nights,
Yeah.
like in the late 70s and early 80s,
Yeah.
man. Like I said, you watched Love Boat. I didn't like Love Boat. I liked Fantasy
Fantasy
Island
was
though.
better than Love Boat.
But I'd sit with my grandma like on the...
Yeah.
Well, Love Boat just seemed like just so...
Love Boat would
campy
come
and-
on, I was 7? I'd start singing the song. I used to know all the lyrics.
Yeah.
Love Boat. I'd sing the song and shit.
I remember
And then
that.
once the song was over, you know what I mean? The grass would be showing up. I'm like, okay, yeah, time for me to check out.
Well,
I go,
I liked to watch the beginning because then you got to see like what guest stars were on there, but then I
Yeah.
can't remember anything.
I don't remember anything after that.
So, like I said, it didn't go.
I was young,
it didn't
but-
go in a horror direction, so it kind of lost my interest.
I was young, but I wasn't that young. I was old enough to be attracted by them fucking cute women that would show up on that show.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people remember that.
They had that girl that worked on the fucking boat with the fucking that damn Dorothy Hamill haircut.
Yeah,
What was her name?
yeah. Was her name Julie?
Something like that. Yeah.
Your cruise
She was
director
cute,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I remember her.
Yeah.
Wasn't she was in that fucking movie that we fucking... She was in Airplane, wasn't she? Wasn't she in Airplane?
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway. So, as shit on as this movie is getting, it's actually... I didn't think it was as bad as everyone is saying. It's certainly not great. It's pretty dumb. But if you go into it with that and just kind of turn your brain
It's
off
an
and watch
entertaining
it,
movie.
it's just, like, entertaining.
Yeah.
And like I
liked
said...
it more than she liked it, I think.
You probably did.
Yeah, I liked
I
it.
didn't mind it.
I
didn't mind it. But I expected it to, like, suck out loud. So
No.
I was like, oh, that wasn't all that bad.
I enjoyed it.
And like I said, I liked it better than fucking Truth or Dare. Cause
I thought the shit was fucking... Just
And
reminded me of the
I'll tell you
television
what.
show, and
I tell
was-
you what. If they make a sequel, I'll probably go see that too.
Yeah, I'd see that too.
I'd see that too.
Yeah.
Especially if they go more in a horror direction, because
Yeah.
I think that was what I wanted it to go more horror, and not have just like one thread that was horror and all the other ones were kind of other genres. You know what I mean?
I liked it. I thought it was just a carefree, enjoyable movie.
Okay. All right, so the third one we saw this week, this was another one from Blumhouse Productions. This was The Invisible Man.
This was another Blumhouse?
They distributed it, yeah.
Okay. It was a good movie.
This one, this is easily, I think this is one of my favorite movies that I've seen so far this year. This one is like, it's funny to me because I guess it didn't really occur to me until after I'd seen the trailer a couple of times. But this was original. Remember back in 2016 or whenever it was that they were trying to, like Universal was trying to get that Dark Universe thing off the ground?
Yeah, the Universal Monsters.
And they made, which is a great idea
Yeah.
in theory, but then they made The Mummy with Tom Cruise, and it's like it made money, but it didn't make as much as they were expecting, and like the critics hated it and all this.
The casting.
So yeah, so they kind of scrapped the whole idea of doing that. However, they did still want to make, because then I think they made Dracula Untold and some other ones too.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, which was okay, but
liked
I think it didn't do very
I
well.
like Dracula Untold.
So I think what they're planning on doing now is they're still planning on rebooting some of these monster movies, but they're not going to be interconnected. Like initially, they were all going to be part of the same like shared universe, like Marvel. But
Bad idea.
yeah, they decided just not to do that. They said we're still going to do that, but we just wanted to be like standalone. I heard they were supposed to make Bride of Frankenstein last year, but I guess that never happened. So this one was actually one of the ones that was initially supposed to be in their interconnected universe, but they decided, you know what, fuck it, we're just going to do, it's like going to be a whole different thing, and it's going to be its own thing. So now this was directed by Leigh Whannell, who did Saw, he did Upgrade. So he's done like a bunch of really Insidious, which was also very good. So he kind of took this and did something really cool with it. Now it's loosely adapted from, like the original movies that they made back in the 30s, like with Claude Rains and stuff like that, which is based on the H.G. Wells novel. Basically about it's a mad scientist type movie, but this one is more...
It's not really from his point of view.
It's not from his point of view, which is the one thing that makes it really interesting to me, because even though I don't think it deviates it deviates from the source material, but not as much as it seemed to, because I feel like in the original novel and in the original movies, like with Claude Rains and stuff like that, and even in like Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon, I feel like the dude was always a dick. even before he decided, because his whole reason for wanting to be invisible was, ooh, look at all the shit I could get away with because no one would see me. Yeah. And I think even in the original book, the whole point of H.G. Wells' book was that what would people do if they didn't have other people watching, like keeping them in line? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of cool that they took this, but then they kind of flipped it so that the point of view was from one of his victims rather than him.
Stories about this chick. She leaves her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's this gazillionaire genius. And he's like a contractor for militaries and governments.
Yeah, he's working optics.
He can make all different kinds of things. And one of the things that he made was the suit that puts you on. It bends. It's a Predator suit. But it's
essentially.
It's even better than the Predator camouflage. It's a perfect camouflage.
Yeah.
You can see right through the person. It's bending light somehow, or it's using weird cameras and screens. Not real plausible, but okay, fine. Because they've had technology that's done that kind of stuff for a long time, but it's not effective because it casts light. It's a screen. Screens always cast light even when the screen is black. It's not invisible. Anyway, she leaves him, and he's such a fucking maniac. He's stalking her. He's like a stalking, abusive boyfriend who just can't let the shit go. And that's when the troubles began. You know what I mean? He's making her think that she's crazy. She doesn't know about this suit.
Yeah.
She finds out later. She didn't know that he made that. And he destroys her life using this goddamn thing. And it's fucking cool. And eventually, it starts off kind of like one thing that was good about this movie is that it did not break my 10-15 minute rule. I was immediately kind of pulled into it. I was like, man, okay. So I was in the movie very quickly. There were a couple times where after she left him, she moped a little too much.
Although that was a really short time, I thought. It
seemed to me like it went on 5-10 minutes too long. It kept referring back to it. Maybe if I were to see it again.
Yeah, it didn't seem like that long a time to me.
But it seemed my sense of time gets kind of stretched out in the beginning part of a movie sometime when I'm trying to adjust to the story, I think.
Yeah.
And 5 minutes may seem like 15 to me, or 3
yeah, because to me it seemed like, I mean, the opening scenes of the movie is her sneaking out of her boyfriend's house trying to get the fuck away from him, because she's obviously been planning this for a long time.
That pulled me in, but when she moved in with the new roommate, and she was moping around a little too much, and it kind of was like, okay, I got you. We know it, babe. You were fucking abused. Whatever. Let's get to this, back to the story. I already got that. It seemed like it kept trying to reinforce it too much. And I wanted to see what was going to happen next. I already knew that she was running from the guy.
Yeah.
That the guy was bad. But anyway, it kind of goes in the direction of a ghost movie.
Yeah.
And then it almost kind of seems like The Exorcist. And then it almost seems like a movie about insanity. And then it gets into an action movie for a little bit where he's fighting the cop. It gets really cool. It's cool shit. It shows you what you could do just with a damn invisibility suit. And then eventually the woman gets her revenge. But you can't spoil anything about how that shit goes down.
The thing that I liked about this movie, and like I said, I really like a lot of Leigh Whannell's other movies as well, and I think he did a really good job of this because, one, it's not relying on jump scares, which I like. Yeah. There was maybe a couple, but they didn't feel like just cheap, like, ooh, loud noise, you know what I mean? Anything like that. One thing that I thought was really cool about this, because you're seeing everything from her perspective, you don't see the abuse.
No.
She tells somebody about it.
Yeah.
You don't. So the whole thing is kind of about her. The whole theme of it is like her and her believability, because we know as an audience, and she knows, that this fucking bitch is still alive.
Yeah, nobody believes her.
And he has an invisibility suit. But, you know, if your friend told you that, you wouldn't believe her either.
You're fucking crazy.
But we know. And it's like, so it was freaking me out so bad, because it's like, she's just, you can tell, and like, you can tell that she's trying so hard, like, to prove it and to get people to understand, like, what she's going through. And no one believes it. They just think she's nuts. And it's like, look, he's dead. It's like, quit worrying about it. You just have PTSD or whatever. And you're just like, because she'd been on medication before, like, understandably, because she'd been living with this jackhole. So it's like, So it's like so frustrating, and maybe it's scarier for a woman because it's just like so frustrating that it's like everything she knows that that's what it is, but everyone is questioning her perceptions like at every single fucking turn, and she can't get anyone to believe her.
Yeah.
But in a way you can see the other side of it too, because like I said, if somebody came to you with that story, it's like, oh, my dead ex-boyfriend, because you know he's supposed to be dead, is still haunting me, only no one can see him. You would think she was crazy too. So it's like you can see both sides of it, and that's what makes it really scary to me. I also really like that the way that he shot this movie, he will do these really long like takes like in a room where she's just like sitting in a room like staring at the wall, or she like turns around really slow, and then he'll have like this kind of still shot on like a wall or a hallway or something like that. And he does that so much that you keep looking like all around the fucking thing, like thinking, where is that bitch? I know he's here somewhere. So the director is putting you in the same position as her, because she fucking knows he's there somewhere and she can't see him. And so he puts the audience in those shoes, because he has these shots where it's almost kind of like the dude's in here somewhere. It's like, if you can, so you're like looking at all the corners, like seeing if you can see some like little glimpse of him or something like that, because you know the fucking dude is in there somewhere. So I really like the way he built tension like that by putting you in the same position as she is, knowing that he's there but not knowing where he is.
Yeah, what I liked about the movie is, well, there was a lot to like about the movie, but one of the main things I liked about it is it showed you how powerful invisibility would be.
It really, God, he does all kinds of terrible things.
You can do all kinds of shit that you would never think of until you see this movie, as long as nobody were to see you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of a good examination of how powerful invisibility is.
Yeah, because when you just think about it kind of casually,
You're
it seems like a bullshit superpower. But
no.
When you see this movie, and especially the way that he does, because I feel like a lot of the earlier iterations of the Invisible Man character that were done not through technology, but were done through essentially like magic or alchemy or something, like for like a drug or something. Yeah. So I feel like there's like a lot of stuff where people are like, okay, well, do I have to walk around naked? Can I carry anything or something like that? But this kind of like gets around that by having like the technological thing. So you don't have to worry about, it's like, you know, what if I eat food? Will they be able to see the food in my stomach? Right. Or will they be able to see a bag if I go rob a bank? Like they'll see like a little bag floating around.
No, the invisibility is an illusion.
Yeah.
But you are invisible. And it just shows you what kind of damage you can do, how you can manipulate the environment.
Because, man.
How you can manipulate the legal systems, how you can manipulate everything. Even computers, how you can manipulate computers. Because you can look over people's shoulders. And they will never know.
They won't know you're there.
Right. And just the kind of power that you can get if you
all the crap that he does to this poor woman. And it's like, you know, Elizabeth Moss, I have to say, because I've always loved her, other than her being a Scientologist, which, okay.
She's got cute legs.
But, you know, I've loved her ever since I saw her in Mad Men. You know, she's in A Handmaid's Tale. She was in Us. She is a great fucking actress. And she always seems to play... She's really good at playing like women in distress, or like women kind of like
teetering. She knows how to look crazy.
Yeah, teetering on the edge. And it's like, I think that's kind of what, because this could have been, I feel like the whole conceit of like an invisible man and like fighting with an invisible man, that could go drastically wrong and like kind of turn into like comedy, but it definitely does not at all.
We saw it in the Dolby Theater. The theater was packed. Everybody liked it.
Yeah, it seemed like everyone was like riveted. Like everyone was, you could hear a fucking pin drop in there.
You could hear him back there going, no.
Everybody was like really into it. I was into it too, because like a couple times, like a revelations that happened in the movie was like, oh shit, no, and I was just like, you know, what I mean? It's really like compelling. The
story is very good, and a bunch of stuff happens you didn't see coming.
Oh yeah, I didn't see a lot of that shit coming.
Yeah,
and you know what I mean. So
it's one of the ones you need to see this month.
Yeah, this is a really, really good one. And I hope it does really well. And I'm really glad, because in theory, I loved the idea of the Dark Universe, but I think it was kind of stupid to try to make them all interconnected, because that was just going to be like, things were going to be forced into shit that doesn't go together and everything like that. So I much prefer the idea, like if they're going to make, like by all means, make a Bride of Frankenstein movie, but don't have it have anything to do with this movie, because how the fuck would you even do that? It just seems like too much trouble, and everything would be like shoehorned in. So I feel like
you have things happening at certain time periods.
Yeah.
You can't have them all happening at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, just do shit like DC does, where it's just kind of like they have the characters and they just do their own shit in their own time period or whatever.
What I want to see somebody do, now you might fucking laugh at me, but after seeing DC do Aquaman, I want to see a modern version of the traditional Flash Gordon. I'm talking about with the red skies.
I'm surprised they haven't
clouds
done that
in
yet.
space, pieces of planets floating. There was up and down in space. Fucking rocket ships with dudes out on the wings of the rocket ship. No glass in the windows, and you're in the rocket, just like the 1980.
Yeah,
just like the 1981. I thought that was a beautiful movie. It looks great on Blu-ray. And if you watch any of the old Flash Gordon serials, they nailed that tone of the original serials.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cheesy, but so are the originals. And
well, and
it was also sexy. It had sex and drugs.
Yeah.
This is before they had controls. Back, what was it? What was the name of the Hague Code? What was it called? Before they had any ratings back in the 20s.
Yeah, the Hays Code.
The Hays Code. That's what it was called. If you looked at those old sci-fi pre-Hays Code stuff, it was racy.
Yeah.
It looked very modern.
It was, yeah.
It looked very, very modern. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, you could get it.
There's like sex and drugs in a damn kids show. Drink this potion. You know what I mean? It's a love potion. It's fucking drugs, man. You're roofing that girl.
Yeah. Well.
And that was in fucking Flash Gordon. Star Wars is a fucking copy. George Lucas couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon, so he just made Star Wars up.
Yeah.
Real Star Wars Flash Gordon. I want to see that.
I feel like people would be a lot more forgiving of that nowadays, because it's like you can get away with pretty much anything.
Yeah.
As long as you kind of explain your universe. It's like, oh, well, this is how it works in this universe. People are like, all right.
In this universe, fucking space is fucking pink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, it's like you can get away with a lot more than you could back in the day.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be realistic.
Blue clouds in space.
Yeah.
Fucking right, man.
But yeah, so I really like that, Universal decided, well, we can still make the monster movies, technically, but they'll each be their own thing. And I feel like this is a really, really successful, because they didn't try to make it like The Mummy. They didn't try to make it like a Marvel movie. They just basically made it's a horror thriller with a slight sprinkling of sci-fi. Just in the sense of like how he gets to be invisible. Yeah. It's not like a hard sci-fi. It's just kind of like that's kind of the mechanism by which it happens.
Yeah.
And it's believable enough that it keeps it grounded in reality. So this is definitely more like something like Sleeping with the Enemy or something like that. Kind of like a domestic abuse thriller with a lot of horror elements, a lot of ghost elements, because like I said, him being invisible.
Yeah, she thought he was a ghost.
Yeah, it's, you know what I mean? So there's kind of like a thing where, I mean, in the trailers, they kind of tell you that, yeah, he's not really dead and he's wearing a suit.
Yeah, you know that from
the jump. Right. The horror comes from her knowing that and us knowing that, but no one else believing that. And thinking to yourself, if you were in that situation and everyone thought you were crazy and there was nothing you could do convince people otherwise, you would be fucked like harder than anyone had ever been fucked. And so like I felt so bad like I
think sometimes she was doubting herself.
And that was the hell of it too. And that's the same thing that would happen to a real person in real life, because they're totally the movie is essentially gaslighting her.
Yeah, he was trying to drive her crazy, making her think that she had lost control over her own actions too. Yeah, and
that was the shit of it too. It's bad enough that everyone else doesn't believe her, and that he's like isolating her, he's cutting her off for people in various like horrifying ways. Yeah. But also making her think maybe I can't trust my own perceptions, and that's like even scarier. So that to me was like very scary. Yeah. And I think that Elizabeth Moss, she played it so well that you were just like, it was just like heartbreaking, like watching all the terrible shit that he was doing and knowing that she couldn't do anything about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so just the way they did this, it's just like, it was really creepy. It was just really well done. Like I said, it's a horror movie, mostly a thriller, but it's got some horror elements in it with a little bit of sci-fi. And it's definitely doesn't have like a bunch of jump scares or a bunch of crap like that. It's just really atmospheric. The way they did like the shots and you're just like making you paranoid about where the dude is at and shit like that was really, really good.
One of the things I thought was interesting, is the guy, they don't talk about it, but they just show it. His laboratory. He was a contractor.
Yeah.
Trying to sell basically camouflage to the military.
Yeah.
And when I was in the Army in the 90s, they showed us a video that was a demonstration on camouflage. And they would show certain things that were out there. And one of the things that are out there, they showed us a damn screen, and the narrator, on the screen says, "Can you see the man in this?" I'm like, no. And then all of a sudden, a square moves, and the guy jumps up, and all it was a damn square. They had a bulletproof. It was a Kevlar bulletproof shield, about 3 feet wide and about 4 feet long, with a little tiny hole through it and a handle. And the front of it was a perfect mirror.
Mirror, yeah.
And if you angled it just right when you were in the woods, all that shit would line up with the ground.
Well, shit,
you
man.
just couldn't damn see
Magicians have been doing that forever. It's like, how do you think they did all those illusions with, like, the lady with just the head, like, in the box and everything? That's all done with mirrors.
Yeah, and he would stand there like that with his rifle, looking through that little tiny peephole, making sure he's gotten the angle of the damn mirror right so you can't see him.
Yeah.
Until he pops out. And they just want... It's weird. They should... on screen it worked.
Yeah.
I guess in person it probably would work as long as the angle was right.
Well, yeah, especially like I said, magicians have done that for hundreds of years.
And, we were looking right at it, trying to see it. Couldn't see it.
Yep, it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, and fun fact, the guy that plays her abusive ex-boyfriend, Adrian, even though he doesn't get much screen time, because for most of the time he's invisible, is actually played by the same guy that played, I think he played Luke in Haunting of Hill House. Okay. Oliver Jackson Cohen. So there you go. He's also very good in this. But like I said, this is kind of Elizabeth Moss's movie. The guy that plays her friend that she's staying with, he is also awesome. And,
big old black dude.
And him and the daughter and the interaction between the three of them is really good as well.
We saw him in another movie recently.
Yeah, what the fuck was he in? God damn it. Aldous Hodge, the actor's name is. Shit, what was he? It was just something we saw recently.
God damn it. It wasn't Dolomite Is My Name, huh?
Oh, shit. I don't even remember.
No, I guess not.
I'd have to look it up. I can't remember. But yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, God damn it, we just saw him in something else. What was it? But yeah, I'll have to look up his name. But yeah, so definitely this is a really, really good, if you love thrillers, horror thrillers, and like particularly one that's actually kind of scary. I would definitely...
I would call it a thriller.
It's more a thriller. It's not like gory or anything like that. But it's mainly a thriller, but it has like some really creepy like ghost story type shit in it too, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, this is a really, really good one, so definitely recommended. So go check it out.